Well, it was my privilege at the beginning of September to introduce the theme of interfaith for this month. And I look upon that as a kind of breathing in. And today, I'm very glad to have the opportunity to round off this theme. And I like to think of this today as a kind of breathing out. And later, at the end of the reflection, I'd like us to just take a short time of meditation to really kind of focus on that breathing. As always, I'm interested in spirituality, which I see as being connecting. And it's connecting to what Gandhi called the higher self, or the higher source within each one of us. So it's connecting with our inner life and the inner life of others. But it's also about presence, sensing something more, something transcendent. And it seems to me that this is what the poem by David Whyte, The Opening of Eyes, is all about. Seeing, sensing the transcendent in the passing light over water, in the heart, in the fire of the burning bush, and in the earth itself, felt through bare feet. A thought came to me after I did my last reflection. It was an image, really, that I was just paddling around the edge of very deep waters. So to begin with today, I want to do something quite different. I want to build an imaginative picture, a kind of parable. I want you to imagine looking out over a vast sea, with a beach running in both directions at the edge. And we can call this the Sea of Faith, or spirituality. And like the beaches in Europe, where hotels own part of the beach right in front of them, and they restrict access to only the people, that are their guests staying in that particular place, I want to think about our beach as being divided up, separated up into the various religions. So the Hindus have a section, the Jews, the Muslims, the Buddhists, Christians, and they all have multitudinous subgroups which all control a bit of beach. But they also offer an access to the sea of faith. So way down the far end of the beach, we can just make out groups of indigenous peoples who have a special relationship to the sea. In fact, they see no difference between the sea and the land and even their body. They have this sense of a totally integrated whole, a bit like the Om. So for the indigenous people, it's all one. One day, we may be able to regain that sense of integrated wholeness, but with conscious self-awareness, with individuality. Now, in the past, for countless thousands of years, they could roam the beach without any restriction. Then Hindus appeared on the beach, and they felt such a special relationship with the sea, such a deep immersion in spirituality, that they regarded the land as Maya, illusion. Any time they spent on the land, they kept yearning to return to the sea. And a group broke away from them and claimed their own part of the beach and called themselves Buddhists. And they retained a close connection to the sea, but were quite at home on the land. Then a new group of people appeared. They were called Jews. And they felt a special inner call to the Sea of Faith. And they built a magnificent pavilion, even better than the one at Bondi, where you could change your clothes and shower and buy all sorts of things. But you could only gain access to the sea through their pavilion. And they had lots of rules and regulations, and they really restricted who could come in. So after a time, a group of people got jack of all these restrictions and decided to claim a large chunk of the beach for themselves and anyone else who wanted to join them. They called themselves Christians and started claiming more and more of the beach. Then something terrible happened. A marauding band of barbarians from way inland arrived and trashed the pavilion and essentially scattered the Jews to wherever they could find a patch of beach. Then a new crowd of people arrived called Muslims. And they were very welcoming to anybody who wanted to join them on their part of the beach. But they were very strict with their rules and made sure that men and women didn't go into the water at the same time or in the same place. So lots of them still paddle in the shallows or fully immerse, and some of them, called Sufis, even swim way out into the sea of faith, way out into the depths. And just recently, much further up the beach, a growing number of people gather, a real mix, who come from all over. Some of them call themselves New Age. They don't have any lifeguards, and you don't have to swim between the flags, and they pretty much do their own thing. They don't have any rules and regulations. In fact, there are even reports that some of them don't even wear bathers. These days, up and down the beach, things are changing. Lots of people just play around on the sand and don't even dip their toes in the water. They're so caught up playing beach volleyball and building wonderful sand castles that they take no interest in the sea of faith at all. This is particularly true in the Christian section. But some of them are great swimmers and go way out beyond the others, just bobbing up and down in the shallows. So the point is, the further you swim out in the sea of faith, the less important the activities going on the beach are. There's a kind of fellowship in the deeper waters for swimmers who swim out there. There's a sense of oneness with the sea and all the others out there, which is very fulfilling. But back on the beach, it's important to break down the barriers and to speak to each other. In my time on the Relations with Other Faiths Committee, we've had a number of inspiring encounters with Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Baha'is, Buddhists and Zoroastrians. But without doubt, the longest and most productive dialogue has been with leading members of the Jewish community, which has now been going on for over 3 years. And this brings us closer to the heart of what this reflection is about today, deepening the dialogue. It's hard for me to share something meaningful about this process without getting lost in the detail of facts and figures, arguments, discussions and experiences. Members of our committee were passionate about justice for Palestinian people, and the Jewish representatives were passionate about defending Israel. But we were able to create a safe space to honestly share our perspectives, political, theological and spiritual. At first, it was tense. But as we learnt to respect and trust each other, strong bonds of friendship developed, and we planned our study tour to Israel, Palestine, to explore together the reality on the ground. That was a transformative experience for all of us. We've resolved to give practical support to Jewish, Christian and Muslim groups working cooperatively at a grassroots level to lay the foundation for peace among the people. Let me share just two quick glimpses of how this dialoguing has been mutually enriching. Last Thursday was the International Day of Peace. We're thinking of peace today in the reading from Gandhi. But it was also a very special day for the Jewish community. It was Rosh Hashanah. The beginning of the year was Jewish New Year. The beginning of the year, 5778. So Rosh Hashanah, this is a festival of prayer and reflection on the past year, initiating the 10 days of awe leading up to Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year. And that's known as the Day of Atonement, which involves prayer and 26 hours of fasting. The high holy days continue for another 5 days until Sukkot, the festival of booths or tabernacles. And people create little shelters with palm fronds and eat all their meals there. And for the really observant, they spend the next 7 nights sleeping in these booths. This is to remind them of what it was like for their ancestors who endured the 40 years wandering in the wilderness. So our Jewish friends shared with great enthusiasm how they experienced the rigours of these festivals, what they did, what it meant, and how it affected their inner life. The dialogue has been helpful to me in another way. I'm often sent Richard Rohr's daily meditations online. The introductory description says, drawing on his own Franciscan heritage and other wisdom traditions, Richard Rohr reframes misunderstood teachings to reveal the foundation of contemplative Christianity, God as loving relationship. We could add relationship that embraces all people. His focus on this particular day, this particular meditation, was substitutionary atonement. This is a concept I abandoned many years ago. I do not believe that Jesus died so that God could forgive me for my sins. And I don't believe that a loving God actually needs a blood sacrifice in order to forgive. As Richard Rohr says, why would God need a blood sacrifice before God could love what God had created? He goes on to add a dimension I had not previously understood. He writes that we have misunderstood the nature of animal sacrifice in the Judaic temple. And he quotes Marcus Borg, a significant voice in progressive Christianity and a strong voice against the theory of substitutionary atonement. And Borg says these sacrifices in the temple were not about payment for sin, but making something holy by giving it as a gift to God. Sacrifices were about thanksgiving, petition, purification, and reconciliation, not substitution. Paying the price and atonement with the scapegoat are metaphors for transformation. And he goes on to say that theologians have mistakenly understood them in a transactional way instead of in a transformational way. So in the dialogue group, I was able to run these interpretations of what went on in the temple past an orthodox and a progressive rabbi, both of whom confirmed Borg's understandings, adding that there were different kinds of sacrifice, but there was particularly the one that was consumed afterwards or eaten, and ones which were fully burnt. And the ones that were fully burnt represented a change of heart. You got rid of that. So one of the group decided, or I actually offered to research the notion of scapegoat and further share it with us next time. Another question came up. If there was a holy temple today, would Jews sacrifice still? Would they still need to sacrifice? The answer, no. Now, specific prayers are offered instead of sacrifices. So, if Jesus didn't die for our sins, what then was his mission? One understanding of the mission of the cosmic Christ, as Matthew Fox calls him, is to transform the universe based on wisdom into a universe based on love. Christ's teaching about love calls us to do something incredibly hard, to expand our capacity to love beyond family and friends, to include neighbours who are different, strangers, people we don't like, and even enemies. More than teaching, Christ acted out this profound love through the way he lived his life, his actions and behaviour. The turning over of the tables in today's gospel is a powerful demonstration of his support for the poor and exploited. That kind of love is not sentimental. It's challenging, compassionate, and caring. One step in that direction is engaging with those around us who are different. This is what impels our dialogue. We have moved through confrontation to understanding, respect, and genuine friendship. So to conclude, let us open our eyes, our hearts, and our minds to the transcendent moment, to explore the deep waters at the source, to awaken love in the human heart. Amen. Now, if you feel comfortable, I'd like you to join me in a meditation. So, to begin with, can we just feel both our feet flat on the floor? Really sense your feet touching the floor, the earth. Feeling your back very straight and your head balanced nicely on top. And your arms just relaxed in your lap or wherever it feels comfortable, with an open palm. And if you're happy to do so, close your eyes and just turn your attention to your inner life, to your inner being. And now we're just going to focus on our breathing for a moment, breathing in and out. And as we breathe in, we're going to calm our body. And as we breathe out, we're going to let go of any thoughts or feelings or any things that we're carrying with us and just be absolutely calm and peaceful, with a sense of balance within. And this is the emptying the vessel. We're just clearing our minds, our hearts. We're clearing ourselves so that we can just be very present in this moment, to the moment. And now I'd like you to just really consciously open your heart to love and let love permeate your whole being. Now, once again, just feeling your feet touching the floor, your spine touching the seat, your head in the air, and just come back into this space. And as you feel comfortable, just open your eyes and be present in this inner space, this outer space, as well as the inner space. Amen.